Hello guys, and welcome to the track guide of the East London race for the BTCC Championship. I'll be going over with my Infinity, although this video is also meant for my Moraya team in the front-wheel drive Hyundai. So there may be a few specifics I'll go over with the front-wheel drive if I come up with it. Otherwise it's still a track guide anyway, so take it in. Starting the lap with a very fast right-hander, barely dab on the brakes or a lift to keep the nose in, otherwise it's as fast as you can. You can use this section, it's absolutely flat and totally fine grip-wise. Bend on the right-hand side, flat out, no problems. Here 150 meter ball will do, and if it gets knocked out in the race, use the start of this line. Into second gear, late apex. Now a specific of this Infinity is to use the throttle at all times. It's where the rotation of the car kicks in. I don't know how bad the differential is, but with the setups we have, this is the only way to get rotation in this car. It's not the steering wheel, it's the throttle. So always keep some throttle, even if you enter a corner. It's very important. And on the exits, however, this Infinity also has terrible traction, which is a lovely combo. And just apply as much throttle as you can without spinning out on the right hand side. Late apex, back on the straights up until 6th gear, as we'll go over the most difficult section of the track. First marker on the right hand side, 3rd gear. Put a wheel on the grass there, it's always good to shorten some distance. And on this left-hander though, you do not want to shorten the distance with a wheel on the grass. This will upset your car very much. So be as fast as you can near the white line on the inside. Here this little section is just about fine to use. You can put your car in there, just not too close to grass, you know. Onto this next left-hander, which is a very slow but 3rd gear, and the goal again is to balance out between brake and throttle to keep as much rotation as you can with this throttle, but also slowing down for the corner, which is pretty technical to do. But once you get the hang of it, after a few laps it gets better. On this exit, flat out, and from here on out until the final corner it's basically flat out unless you're gonna lose your balance of oversteer or something. Fast kink, which is almost a corner. 4th, 5th, 6th, onto not the 150 but the 100 meter board here. Or if it gets taken out during the race, the start of those rubbers. Late apex, because this leads into the main straight, and always balance between throttle for rotation and keeping some traction on track. For the push to pass, I would suggest, well, starting from the final corner, because this will be the longest section up until turn 1 we will ever use it. And that should be about it. My DMs are always open if you have any questions. As for now, I will leave you with the onboard without any cuts from my voice. Thank you for listening to me, and I will see you on Thursday.
Hello and welcome to the Prince George Circuit in East London, South Africa, for the 7th round of the 2022-2023 EERC British Touring Car Championship. My name is Edward Hunter. Alongside me in the commentary box is our broadcast director and ever faithful, ever analytical ex-driver extraordinaire, Nick Homewood. So, Nick, are you excited for this one? This is a very different track to what we've seen throughout the rest of the season.
Well, it's going to be very, very different. I think there's only 3 real braking zones on this track, and the rest of it's very narrow. So it's going to be very interesting to see what plays out. Ballast as well is going to be a huge detriment here.
Yeah, exactly. With so many long, fast corners and lots of straights, there's going to be quite a bit of slipstreaming in the race. But it is a very narrow track as well. It's very easy to lose your space and get turfed out in certain corners. But of course, the track itself made out of public roads in near the city of East London. You can even see the sea in the background there. So it's a little bit like Anglesey from a few rounds ago. And there's the big South African flag that Roy Seifert, is it Seifert or Seifert? I've been always wondering if I've been saying his name wrong the whole season. But But either way, Seifert, the sole remaining King's driver, and there is the gravel trap car of Carl Benton, of course, who is currently
third in the championship.
Yeah, third in the championship, 137 points, just under. Oh, he's about. Let me just get this right. 153 minus 137. That is about
16.
Yeah, 16 points, so he's not far off Chris English, who is in turn only 25 points away from championship leader Louis Hartley. So that is very tense and close together.
It's only one DNF.
Exactly, of course Louis Hartley did have that failure to finish in the second race at Rockingham last time out. But in the Teams Championship, Gravel Trap Racing have very much stolen the march. They are now over 100 points. It's 390 for Gravel Trap, Hunter Burt Simulation second after a very difficult round, despite winning race 3 with Loic Moynier, 282 points. So that is a 108-point gap then, which Gravel Trap Racing will be looking to consolidate here. And this looks like a very good track for the front-wheel drive cars, I think it must be said, Nick.
Yes, I'd agree with that one. High-speed corners suit front-wheel drive down to the ground.
Yeah, but we just got to hold on, I guess, and wait till
Should we get
the better
Paul
tracks.
in? He's waiting very patiently.
Sure thing. So Paul J. Venter from Logistical Nightmare, of course, the local of this track, wants to desperately join us to give us some insight. So let's let him in. So Paul, I believe you're with us now. Paul, how you doing? Mr. Venter.
Might need to set your microphone up, Paul, if you can hear us. We'll give him a minute.
Well, apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll give Paul some time to sort himself out, because he's obviously got a race that he's planned for. He didn't plan to talk today. Or did he? I don't know. But anyway, Paul, of course, you may remember, had a little bit of a tumble in Rockingham in the first race. But did recover to finish in the top 10 a couple of times. So Paul has had a bit of a up and down season, some highs, some lows, some all over the place roly-polies, but he's survived and given us some great entertainment, some great battles throughout, I think it's fair to say. And he's definitely very popular in the YouTube chat, and not just from the Logistical Nightmare drivers, as there's 10 Lure. Just negotiating that for the Scuderia Moreira car. Might be Matt Richards who's topping the timing, just going off track there.
Yeah, someone was taking a bit of a detour.
And Lure, you might remember, drove a Hunter Burt Simulation Infinity at Anglesey and won the first race there. So Lure is back now driving for Scuderia Moreira. There was an option for Lure to drive the Hunter Birch, but I think we wanted someone in there for the whole season, so we put Chris in for the rest of the season. And Chris Hood has done his best. He's in this practice session at the moment, or is in 12th, just ahead of his teammate Diziu. So it definitely looks like Chris has put a little bit of practice in and had a lot of help from Moynier, who's been he performed that track guide you may have seen at the beginning, which has been I guess fairly important for our drivers in the rear-wheel drive car round, what's essentially a front-wheel drive circuit. Oh, I heard a little bit from Paul there before it cut out.
Hello?
I heard a click, and then it stopped. So, Paul, if you are using a push to talk, you might want to hold it down rather than immediately let go. Nope. I can't get anything from Paul at the moment, I'm afraid.
Progress.
Right, well, maybe we can imagine what Paul was going to
Oh
say.
dear, that's not.
Oh. Oh, Scott Sovic having a more upside down look at the circuit at turn 1, it seems. In the independent Ballers esports car, remember, he finished second in race 3 at Bathurst, so it's great to see Sovic back, and he was second at Anglesey as well, wasn't
He's
he?
looking very strong here, and without
Yeah.
any ballast.
Yeah, of course, Sovic and Richards, so I believe, will Richards have a little bit of ballast, or did he not get into the top 10?
No,
So,
he is 17th in the championship.
so Sovic and Richards are probably going to be the favourites here. But the logistical nightmare cars of Greening, and Greening looks very strong here. In 3rd position, of course.
Hello, Paul? Nope.
Yeah, you know, Paul, it's usually a good idea to test these things beforehand, rather than just showing
That's
up.
mumble.
Yeah. I know, but it's not like he's not used it before. I've seen him in the server before. Come on, you can't fool me. Oh. Well, he's put on some entertainment for us, if nothing else, with his really not functioning microphone, or whatever's wrong with his setup. It seems Paul just can't fix it, so...
Chatting with him now. I'll see if I can get it fixed. Talk away, Ed. I'll be right
Sure
back.
thing. But anyway, of course, East London, at the Prince George circuit, of course, well known for hosting rounds of the Formula One World Championship in the late 50s and early 1960s, with the last being 1962, I believe, if I remember correctly, won by Graham Hill. I think no, it did actually host a few more in the 60s, didn't it? All the way up to 66.
Briefly try Discord with Paul. If that's okay with you, Ed?
Okay. All right, well, I'll have to switch over to that then. Oh, I'm already in it, aren't I?
Yep.
So
Just deafen here and undeafen there.
all right, then. So...
Hello.
Jen.
Right, okay, you join us now. Paul
Hey.
Venter. Is it Paul Venter or Paul J Venter? I've always been using the J.
So the J is just to distinguish, because there's actually 5 Paul Venters in South Africa that actually races in real motorsport.
Okay.
So
But,
yeah, it's just to distinguish between the lot of us.
Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry about that. I was getting a little bit annoyed earlier by just trying to constantly try and get you to talk, and you couldn't.
Yeah, man, no idea. Mumble was working, and then it just does not want to work.
Traditional.
Well, we've had a lot of our drivers have struggled to get in the Mumble just full stop, so they just haven't bothered for most of the season, sadly. But anyway, tell us a little bit about this East London circuit, because Paul,
Okay.
you've actually driven it a few times.
Yes, so in my days of racing Formula Vs in South Africa, we travel every year to East London. It's kind of a highlight. So it's a semi-street racetrack. So basically the main straight, if you look just before turn 1, to the left is in theory an escape road. However, that's the main road for this street into town. So, and then as you turn onto the main straight at the final corner, on your left is the road that carries on going down the sea. So
You mean Beacon Bend, right?
yeah, there we go. So yeah, so it's quite it's a semi-street circuit. So on a public day, if you're bored, you can go and drive around this track, which is quite fascinating to do. I don't know how many people have probably crashed while having a joyride, but I know from personal experience, crashing at this circuit is quite easily to be done. My very first visit to East London, I crashed on my very first lap of practice trying to learn the track. I arrived at the first chicane, and I hit the curb on the right-hand side, and the curb is so high that it ripped the steering arm out of the steering rack, and the car drove straight into the barrier.
Oof,
and
that
crashed.
sounds pretty nasty.
So we hastily pulled the steering rack out and took the steering arms off and went to an engineering shop and had them welded to the steering rack. And I then carried on racing in that way, which was fortunate that I was able to then still take part, as I live in Johannesburg, which is about 1,000 odd kilometers away from the circuit. So yeah, it's a favorite one of everyone that races in South Africa. It's the fastest track in South Africa. It's also the only circuit that is a historical monument, so it cannot be demolished, it cannot be adjusted or changed or any of that sorts, due to it being the only track left in the country that actually physically hosted a Formula One Grand Prix many years ago.
Yeah, of course, Kyalami would be the other, but of course it doesn't have that same status because all the facilities at East London are still there today, aren't they?
Yeah, so East London still gets used. It gets used basically on a monthly basis by their local racing club, and then all the nationals and so on. They race there about 2 to 3 times in a year. Then they get the big league. So our GT3s, we have our supercars, our single seaters, the super bikes. Everyone loves it. It's an insane circuit. The game, I think for the drivers, it probably does it justice to maybe like a 20%, but you literally, from coming out the last corner, you are flat out going through potters and all of that. It's just insane. We normally 5-6 cars in a train, and then when you arrive at that hairpin, everyone just fans out, and then it's who's got the biggest lead foot to stop his car. And yeah, we've seen some crazy crashes. I've seen touring cars rolling from basically the first corner all the way down to the hairpin. I've seen single seaters tandemly roll down the circuit there, and we've seen motorbikes literally disintegrate by just absolutely destroying itself while it's going end over end along the circuit.
Well, there we go. Some fascinating insight there from you, Paul. I think we've probably got to let you go now because it's only a couple of minutes until qualifying starts. So best of luck, Paul, and hopefully we'll talk to you at the end of race 3 again as well.
Absolutely. I hope so. One of our South African boys can get on the podium here, to try and do us a little bit proud, just a tad.
You never know. Got it on the calendar. I'd never heard of this place before you mentioned it. So.
Yeah, well, let's have fun, boys, and then hopefully we make the stream quite entertaining with a nice little long train of slipstreaming.
We'll see.
Thanks, kids. Enjoy. Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, of course. I've actually driven East London as well, but only in a Trackmania version of this circuit, and I never won there. I think the best I did was second one year, and that was a handicap race as well, where the person who won was the guy who had the least handicap, and I just sort of, because it was one of those ones where you just have to keep saying consistent lap times without hitting anything.
Yep. Should we hop back to Mumble quickly before quali starts?
Yeah, sure thing. That won't mean anything for the audience.
No, not at all.
Home. No.
There we go.
All right. So, qualifying imminently about to get underway then next. So, I guess it's all those guys with less ballast that we got to look out for, haven't we? And those front-wheel drive drivers. So, of course, Valente is also another one with very little ballast, having missed quite a lot of the season. Originally a Honda simulation driver like Ten Lua, and now both driving for Moreira. So it seems like there's a sort of interchangeable merry-go-round of drivers between my team and the former, I guess it's kind of Iris, but it's owned by Loic, so it's called Scuderia Moreira.
Server settings are being a bit laggy. There we go. There's quali.
I'm going to check that Moinier is actually still around, because we had this issue last time as well. If I remember correctly.
We've got a few people in the queue waiting to join the server. He might be one of them. A bit last minute, but I won't judge.
He's also giving Chris a bit of some tips on his best lap that he's recorded.
Right.
Anyway, looks like we're about to get underway then. Loic says he's logging in, so hopefully he'll be able to get in before qualifying ends. He's got 8 minutes. Less than 8 minutes is Stepniarek. in the Infinity, the SZ racing car, is the first to get on track. Was that a bit of a children's climbing frame in the foreground there? Or was that just the top of the tyre barrier, Nick?
Didn't quite see. I hope it's a children's play area. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see some jungle gym acrobatics from these drivers today. There's Roy Seifert, the sole driver for King's Dealer Racing. And Seifert, we saw sort of get a podium after the fact, didn't we? Because we did see that the gravel trap racing team in race 2 at Rockingham get a 1-2-3. But I think, who was it? It was, I think it might have been Simmons.
He got it back.
Oh, he did get it back.
There
Okay.
was some, new evidence came up.
Yeah, it was mainly my guys who got the penalties, so they'll probably all be at the back after this qualifying
Remco
session.
and Chris have both got 5 places.
Oh, typical. Yeah, didn't quite go in my favour there. There were a couple of people saying, "Oh, does Nick just do all the judging by himself and deliberately target us?" But
No, not at all.
no. Well, I think everyone feels that way after it happens to them, but it's a sort of natural feeling of everyone's out to get me persecution. But anyway. But anyway, Roy Seifert now negotiates the final corner.
Should we do
Beacon
an
Bend.
on-board lap?
I guess there's no harm in us doing that. But it's a Stiniara going some distance away, and then Seifert now taking to the long run into the first corner, building up speed in
Might
sixth
be flat
gear.
out. No, not quite.
Let's get a little bit of lift on entry, but trying to hold on as long as he can. Oh, 2 wheels just kept on track there, but well over the curb, and now he comes into Rifle Bend and Cocobana corner.
The rev limiter.
Yeah, here we go. Now on the brakes. He's trying to find the exact right braking point there. Crosses the arms over, hits the inside curb. And that front wheel drive, it really allows you to get the tighter turn in for that sort of corner at high speed, doesn't it?
It will, yeah, and a lot better on the power as well. You're not managing the pedal to try and not spin out in a real
Yeah,
drive
you're not
car.
worrying too much about the rear traction as well. And here we go into the S's. And see if it gets as wide next. And he's set a purple first sector then, which is a good start.
Very nice
Now
and
he's-
tidy.
Now he's got to set himself up for the sweep. Cox's corner in the sweep. Which is sort of a reverse of the S's essentially. And now we just got last corner to go. Beacon Bend. Again,
Ooh, too wide.
a little bit wide. That's going to hurt his exit speed here. But there should be enough for the provisional fastest time. I'm going to see if I can get the live timing up, because that's the wrong thing I've neglected to do. But across the line he comes.
22.5.
Yeah, 22.5. Very impressive. So it's a live race as I want, isn't it?
Yes. It will be linked in links, I think.
There's Adam Ziola, who's Studniaric's teammate, of course. And Ziola, I think, somewhat in the shadow of Studniaric until, and in fact, even in Rockingham, he was getting a lot of incidents, wasn't he? So,
Yeah, they didn't have a great time last round. The
but even
SZ
worse
cars.
than us.
They
but-
got a bit bullied.
Yeah, I know what that feels like. Well, actually, the drivers know better than I do, but still, I feel their pain. Fastest lap in practice, by the way, was 1:21.5 by Matt Richards.
That's who goes fastest again by a second.
Yeah, there we go. So Matt Richards blows Roy Seifert's time out of the water, and that's not just with the final corner being a lot better, but I think the whole lap was less ballast being dragged around by the Moreira driver in the MG. Is it? No, it's the Hyundai, isn't it?
The Hyundai, yep.
Yeah.
Ooh,
There is no
Chris
MG.
English goes
Oh,
off.
and that's very wide by the man second in the championship, Chris English. The 88 goes straight into the wall just on the exit of Cox's corner there. 3.5 minutes left to go. English is down near the very back. He's one of the ones who hasn't set a time yet. So there are a lot of people. I know the bunch of the 100-bet simulation drivers are probably thinking they're going to give it the back anyway, so they're not going to be particularly motivated with their
None of your
5-place
drivers
penalty.
have set a lap.
That's probably not a good sign. Is it? I hope they're in the middle of one.
Sovic goes second.
Oh, good lap by Scott Sovic, the Ballast eSport driver. And not far off the back of, about 6/10, I think, off the back of Matt Richards.
It's quite a spread.
Yeah, certainly, and it's certainly the Ballast playing its part over the course of the season.
As does Hugo sixth.
Oh, that's a good lap by Dizzy, but as of course going to be 11th essentially. So he's fighting with Paul J. Venter in reality. But that's not too bad for Remco. And I hope you can avoid the chaos. The problem is you get a penalty because you get swallowed up by the pack, and that puts you back in the pack again, which means you get... Oh,
That's turn lower.
we're in trouble then. I didn't quite see exactly what happened because I was looking at the timing screen.
Yeah, just outbraked himself, I think.
There's Sovic going for pole position yet again. 6 attempts to Richards. We saw how quick Richards was at Rockingham. So Richards very, very highly rated in other championships. As Moynier sets the 3rd fastest lap. That's very impressive there for the number 6 Hunter simulation driver. Ahead of Roy Seifert, Valente goes 5th, and Ziola goes 6th there. So great lap by the SZ driver. We've seen Ziola show flashes of pace before, so this is good to see him on improved form. And we thought the rear wheel drive...
Seifert second.
Oh, yeah, so Seifert gets to the final corner right with 2 minutes left to go then.
It's everyone's starting to get their eye in a little bit, but
Yeah, Carl Benson goes 8th. So it's gravel trap. They actually have got the most ground to make up at least before the penalties are applied for the likes of Remco de Zeeuw. Is there anyone else who've crept bigger penalties, Nick?
Chris Hood.
Chris, another Hunter simulation driver. Chris is 17th and second last of those who've set laps. Chris English yet to get a time on the board. Same with Neil Greening and James Smagersgale. I'm surprised. I thought Neil Greening would be doing a lot better, but Chris English sits at 32.2 in the first sector, which is about, quite a way off because Matt Richards has just improved once again to 125.5. So that's nearly 6 attempts ahead of Seifert. So he's pulled away from Seifert and Sovic again.
Hartley's only 6 as well.
Here's English, so certainly on a personal best, should be able to get into the top 10 here. Andy Simmons only goes 16th fastest, though, in the sister car. English, meanwhile, 31.0 in the second sector. Loic Moynier goes second fastest, 4 tenths off of Matt Richards. So it looks like Richards-Moynier looking to resume their battle from race 3 in Rockingham.
Here comes English.
Paul J. Venter, 12th fastest. Studniarek, 9th fastest. But what can Chris English do? Only 12th. Just behind 10 Lua then.
This will be his last lap.
So that's our man second in the championship. Meanwhile, Louis Hartley leading the championship, 6th on the grid at the moment. But here is Chris English. So all the pressure then on the British driver. Can he get himself at least a couple of places further up the grid then? As we're into the final laps now. Time about to run out. Very wide from Chris English, hoping to just get the swing in done. That was a sort of a V corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, as Loic sets the fastest first sector.
Oh, so Moynier flying at the moment, 31.6, 2 tenths faster than Matt Richards, but Richards has gone faster again in the middle and final sector, 121.469. Loic Moynier, 31.1, so a little bit off in the second sector, but still on a personal best. So I think Moynier can maybe inch a bit closer and secure that second place. I don't think Pole is...
Richards is back in the garage.
So Richards is done. So that's going to be his best time then. Can Loic Moynier eclipse or get close? He crosses the line. It's a 122.7. That's slower. Neil Greening, only 17th. That's him done. So just Roy Seifert, Louis Hartley, Igor Studniarek, Remco de Zeeuw, and Peter Schumann goes 8th fastest. Great lap there by Peter. But where is Chris English is done? He's 13th. So that's very disappointing for him. Although there will be a couple of penalties for Remco de Zeeuw to help him out, I think.
Yep, and Chris Hood is behind him anyway.
Let's see. So here we go. Louis Hartley about to cross the line for the final time, followed by Roy Seifert. And Louis Hartley goes to 5th, beats Valente at the death, and very close to being Sovic as well. Roy Seifert stays 3rd, improves a little bit, and de Zeeuw improves up to 6th, so that's crucial for him with his penalty. That will put him down to 11th, just ahead of Ten Lua and Chris English.
Right, let's get the results, see if they work today.
Seems they do. Although they still say Anglesey in the top right corner, but
ignore that.
That's just it's just someone forgot to change the text there. But there we go. So pole position once more, 2 rounds in a row for Matt Richards and Scuderia Moreira. It's Loic Moynier, second on the grid for Hunter Birch Simulation. Very impressive in that rear-wheel drive car, just beating Roy Seifert. So I have a feeling it's going to be a very close battle. Richards, of course, will be using the soft tyres in race 1 once again, which are the option tyres. So I expect Matt Richards to pull away. Scott Sovic for Ballast Esport qualifies 4th. I think Sovic is another one that might have using the soft tyres later on rather than the race 1. Louis Hartley qualifies 5th ahead of Remco Dizzy, but Dizzy will start 11th after his penalty is applied, his 5-place group penalty. Alessandro Valente qualifies 7th ahead of Adam Ziola. Then it's Peter Schumann and Kyle Benton, first with the gravel trap drivers, who rounds out the top 10. So very disappointing for Teams Championship leaders gravel trap. Igor Studniarek qualifies 11th. Ten Lua qualifies 12th for Scuderia Marrera. Then it's Chris English, 13th. Very disappointing for Chris English there. He would have hoped for so much better. Same with Andy Simmons as well. It looks like Gravel Trap just could not get to grips in qualifying with the East London circuit, the Prince George circuit, of course. Niall Bullion qualifies 15th for Logistical Nightmare. Chris Hood, 16th, but he will have a 5-place group penalty that I believe will put him at 21st.
Yes.
Paul J. Venter, he qualifies 17th, but will start 16th. Neil Greening, 18th. Pascal Eggert qualifies 19th ahead of Bjorn Abdulbar for Scuderia Marrera Blossom. Then, rounding out the field, of course, we got a couple of non-qualifiers, I believe.
The only car left is James Smagersgale.
So, I believe that means Chris Hood will start 20th because Smagersgale didn't set a time, right? Or will
He'll be 21st.
Okay, so Smagersgale gets a free place anyway. So basically what you're saying there is Chris Hood shouldn't have bothered qualifying other than getting a few laps under his belt.
Well, he could have, if he'd qualified one place higher, he'd have been ahead of Smagersgale.
Well, so close yet so far for Chris Hood. But anyway, I'm sure there'll be another pile-up for him to get involved and get the blame for. But here we go. I'm back in, Chris, to avoid the carnage. So everyone just making their final preparations in terms of fuel and brake bias settings.
Okay.
But anyway, the big story there, Matt Richards and Loic Moynier and Roy Seifert at the front then, and as we see James Smagersgale still on the stream, I think, for some reason. He's at the very back of the field in the 660, Scuderia Marrera. But Gravel Trap really struggling unexpectedly.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if they haven't done much practice. This isn't really a track you can launch into without knowing what you're getting into. I'm expecting this first lap to be very feisty. That's the best way I can put it.
Chris saying, oh man, 24 frames per second. This is not good. Okay. And I just said, be careful,
Here we
Chris.
go.
All right, okay, so the light's about to go off then. Matt Richards with Loic Moynier alongside him then. Off we go for race 1 here at East London, and it's a pretty even getaway, but Matt Richards has got less ballast, but it's Moynier who slots ahead then into turn 1 then. Oh, and a crash already between the London Scuderia Marrera cars and Logistical Nightmare car, and they're both in the lead. We'll have to get the timing screen to see who exactly that is.
That is Greening and Smagersgale.
Greening and Smagersgale, and off track goes Matt. Is that Matt Richards? No, it's one of the Gravel Trap cars.
Oh no!
Oh, and that's Remco being taken out by Ziola in the SZ car, and he just rejoins with Ziola ahead of him. But there goes one of the Finavons jumping ahead, and it's a chaotic into turn 2 as well. Neil Greening, Bjorn Atibar in trouble, and now Studniarek having go. And Andy Simmons in the wall, missing a rear wing, and he rejoins right next to Scuderia Marrera. But it's Matt Richards who retakes the lead into turn 3 from Loic Moynier, and no, that's not surprising at all given the tyre difference between the two. And in they rush, and off goes one of the Logistical Nightmare cars.
That's Bullion.
Oh, and now Bullion, we saw him going off in practice and just hit the S, is getting it completely wrong, and off goes Andy Simmons again with no rear wing, trying to just make it back to the pit lane, I think. But the order then, it is Matt Richards at the end of the first lap, leading Loic Moynier. Roy Seifert is hurled onto 3rd. Louis Hartley up to 4th, ahead of Alessandro Valente. Adam Ziola 6th. Oh dear. And Carl Benton is 7th, but Roy Seifert loses out to Louis Hartley at the final corner there. What happened, Nick?
It was a bit aggressive. Got a bit of a nudge on the exit.
And this is going to leave Roy Seifert vulnerable to Valente in the Marrera car. Is Valente going to get through? Yes, he is. Into turn 1. And, and there goes Ziola in the SZ car. Oh, dear. That, of course, is Ziola just having to be denied there with Benton right behind. So Carl Benton has actually had a really good start to get up to 7th place. 10 Lure right behind him, though.
Oh, that's a dive. I don't know if he's
here
getting
comes
that
Ziola.
stopped.
Oh, that's very, very deep for Ziola, and back through goes Roy Seifert then. So Roy finding himself, with all that ballast, really a target for these other cars.
I see there's an ambulance at the side of the track. That's probably good.
Yeah, I think poor Abdibar and Boolean and Greening could probably use it right now. But anyway, I'm fully...
Oh, that's who's that? Lure.
It's 10 Lure in trouble, and he gets out just ahead of the rest of the pack there. That was, I think, Chris English who nearly hit him there.
I think
But anyway.
Pascal Eggert's been involved as well.
Yeah, so not a great start for Pascal either. So, in rate, who's using
Oh,
the soft...
oh dear, there's so much going on.
Yeah, Ziola going off as well. So I'm trying to figure out who's... So Ziola's messed up there completely. It's Matt Richards.
Careful with the rejoin. Oof.
Oh dear, just in front of one of the logistical nightmare. No, the gravel trap car, sorry. And here's Carl Benton now, trying to make a move on Roy Seifert for 5th place. These two quite equal on ballast, aren't they?
Yes.
And Benton has got the inside into turn 1. Seifert desperately trying to hold on. And but is Carl Benton using the soft tyres? I believe he is, isn't he? No, race free, sorry. So these two are both on the mediums, and Carl Benton's still got the inside, but Roy Seifert is desperately going to try and hold on. Is that English right behind them there?
It is, yeah.
So English has actually gained a few places in all the carnage, and just ahead of, I think that's one of the Finnamons of Schoenemann, isn't it? Right behind him.
Yes, Pascal's been through the wars a bit. I think he's at the back.
Oh dear, yes.
As Adabar has retired.
Yeah, oh dear. So Adabar we saw in a crash at the beginning, and there's Andy Simmons. Is he still going without a rear wing?
He is. It shouldn't be too much of a disadvantage here.
Oh! And that looks like... oh, that's not Chris English. It's
Benton.
Benton going off track right in front of Roy Seifert at the Cox's corner. And that's really given an opportunity for the cars behind, hasn't it? We still haven't got the timing tower, Nick, which is why it's
Don't
so
we?
difficult to follow
Oh.
what's going on stream. So I really thought you would have been on top of that.
No, I didn't notice. I was watching it off.
There we go. So finally we got the actual timing on screen. So I don't have to keep looking over. Oh, big crash. That's Venter being attacked by Schoenemann. So Venter has actually got ahead of Schoenemann for 8th place there. And that means Remco Duziu, who's recovering from his group penalty, now in the top 10, is going to start to attack Peter Schoenemann for 9th now.
That was another aggressive overtake. But...
And now Chris English wants to go at Roy Seifert as well. Oh, somebody going off, being pushed into the... Ziola. No,
Studniarek.
So Studniarek went side by side with somebody or other, and that might have been Lura, I think, who he was fighting with. Or was it his teammate Ziola? He was somewhere around those two, wasn't he?
But the poor SZ cars are getting bullied a bit again. Oh, no!
Oh, and that's one of the logistical... Oh, it's... That's 69 of Schoenemann, and Schoenemann rejoins right in front of Duziu there. And Chris Hood. Chris Hood goes off and rejoins right in front. So Chris Hood was the one who nearly got taken out there by Peter Schoenemann, and they're going to rejoin side by side. And another crash in the background. And
yeah,
that looks
Smaggersgale.
like James Smaggersgale getting it all wrong. And here we go, Schoenemann still fighting Remco Duziu. And he gets
he's outbraked
just
himself.
ahead. But Schoenemann goes really deep into the S's and blocks Remco Duziu on re-entry there. So Duziu is actually the one who lost out. It was a bit confusing there. So Hood is up to 12th. Duziu drops to... because he came just upon him at exactly the wrong time. So more horrible luck for Remco Duziu. As that looks like Richard sending fastest lap of the race, pulling 2 seconds on Moynier, who's holding off Hartley. But here's Chris English in the middle of a battle. He's got his teammate right behind him now. And...
That's Sovic.
No, it's Scott Sovic, sorry, with no ballast, breezing past Chris English. Sorry, they're very similarly livery.
Yeah.
This sort of dark black, blue, and purple, aren't they?
This is absolute carnage.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone's meant to follow this race. Carl Benson has somehow got up from near the back up to 5th. So he's done very, very well. But Roy Seifert is still right with him. Then it is Paul J. Venter, who we interviewed just before the race. And that seems to have been a good luck charm because everyone in front of him up the road has binned it, essentially.
He's absolutely going
But
for
now
it.
Sovic fancies a go at him, and he's potentially going to drag Chris English with him. And this is crucial for English. He cannot afford. Louis Hartley's got up the road. No, that's one of the Hunter Birch cars in trouble behind. I think that might have been
Hood.
Chris Hood just being spun into the side of somebody. And side by side goes Seifert and Benton. And Benton just collects himself. And Paul J. Venter is through on Roy Seifert. So this is brilliant from Paul
Very
J. Venter up into
opportunistic.
the top 6. And now through comes Sovic as well. So that's Roy Seifert losing 3 positions there. Oh, unless he can really stick it out here, because Sovic is still side by side with him. And Sovic's going to come through around the outside. 10 minutes to go in this race. But it's anyone's game who's going to finish in outside of the top 4, isn't it?
There's only still 10 minutes to go, oh my lord. As Ziola is somehow in 10th, despite having a massive accident at the start.
He is,
As,
yes, somehow.
Simmons is DNF'd.
I'm trying to figure out who's on the soft tyres then. So Shute, who's not here, Greening, who is here, Venter, who is here, and Richard. So no wonder Paul J. Venter's been doing so well with those soft tyres on. But now he's going to...
Oh, that's lure off.
It's really, apart from Moynier, it's really not been a good race for Underbird Simulation with Dizu and Hood down in 14th and 15th.
He's still going.
They're definitely still in the race, could still scrape a few points here, but it's not really what... after Gravel Trap struggled in qualifying, I think I would have hoped a little bit better in race 1, but still 2 more races to go. And Sovic now right on the back with no ballast, trying to chase Roy Seafer. Oh! And that's Paul J. Venter making a messed up move on one of the gravel track cars of Benton. So Benton dropping down the order well off track there into the undergrowth, and he's going to rejoin down in... Oh, he's had to cut a big section of the track there and come out still in 5th position, but it'll have to let the pack through, surely.
I think the game's allowed that. It hasn't given him a penalty.
There we go. So he rejoins in 9th position. Actually doesn't lose too much there.
Yeah, I didn't really see what happened.
He has lost 4 positions.
So is Venter.
Yeah, and Venter has lost out to Sovic, Seifert as well.
And English.
Yeah, and Chris English crucially getting through. But I think Venter and Benton are not going to be happy with one another after that one, because that felt like Venter went for the inside and Benton turned in on him. Venter Benton, with my cold sounding very similar, unfortunately.
Fenton.
Exactly. Well, he made those fencing jokes earlier, didn't
we? Do we?
And oh, look at this. Sovic still fighting with Seifert for that 5th position. But has to concede. He's going to be stuck on the outside here because Seifert's defending the middle of the road now for all he's worth. And that's English going really wide as well. But now Suffolk has got the run on Roy Seifert as they go towards the S's. Surely the Ballast Esports driver is going to take 5th position here, as Richards has increased his lead to Loic Moynier to about 5 seconds now. Side by side they go. Seifert somehow managing to hold on from Suffolk here.
It's good racing between these two specifically.
Yes. Moynier, interestingly, faster in the fastest first sector of the race compared to Richards, about 2 tenths faster.
We've got Venter has DNF'd and Shinneman has DNF'd.
Oh, so Venter clearly hitting more trouble after his incident. Perhaps the car was undrivable, but the order now, as we see Sovic continuing to attack into the final corner with 7 minutes left to go. It's Richards, Moynier, Hartley, Valente, Seifert, Ziola, Benton, English, Schoenman, and Venter. I'm seeing an old timing screen because it's the page has become completely unresponsive on me, sadly. So, yeah, Richards, Moynier, Hartley, Valente, Seifert, Sovic, English, Benton, Ziola, and Lua now is your top 10. Followed by Eggert, Dizu, Greening, and Hood. But here we go. Sovic finally gets through then. But is Roy going to dive it up the inside then at the Bocabana bend?
Touch.
The Bocabana, I think. The Copacabana bend.
Copacabana?
Yeah, exactly. Side by side they go on the exit, and Sovic is pushed onto the grass a little bit there. This is getting a shades of Venter and Benton, isn't it? But this time, Seifert is given just enough space, but goes a little bit deep. Sovic will try and set himself up for the exit here. And this is allowing English to close back in on the both of them, although English goes wide. Oh, he goes very wide, and that's going to allow Benton through, and possibly Ziola as well.
Yeah, he's
Indeed,
down
he
to
does.
11th.
Lua through as well. As
Wow.
Richards sets another fastest lap of the race then, to keep Loic Moynier well behind. But that was a big error there for Chris English. Down into 10th position he goes. And it's just this as well that Dizu has had so much trouble in this race. Eggert too, as they battle each other. There's Valente starting to close a little bit on Louis Hartley, isn't he?
A little, I think, yeah.
So Valente, who on the medium tyres, just like Louis Hartley, I believe, but hasn't given up yet. So we'll have to see if he makes the challenge in the closing stages. But
It's all calmed down a little bit.
Remke Dizu sets a personal best, 1.2 behind Pascal Eggert. And looks like Narbulian is closing on his teammate Neil Greening as well, but about 4.7 seconds behind. So Sovic still behind Seifert though, and challenging as there we go. That's Ziola and Lua fighting over 8th, and Ziola defending very aggressively.
Yeah, I think Lua outbraked himself a bit there, and Ziola really had nowhere to go.
Yeah, but here we go. Lua is going to be stranded on the outside as they go through turn 1. Not turn 1. This is the S's they're just coming to. And this is going to allow Chris English, recovering from his mistake, to close up to the back of them as well. So English crucially needs to get by these guys if he can. And Lua really being held up here by Ziola. And Ziola makes a mistake. There we go, as they go through Cox's corner.
Lua hasn't got an overlap. He's going to have to dive him.
We go then through into back straight and Beacon Bend. Oh! And they both bump into the side of one another. That was aggressive from Lua, diving up the inside. But is he going to get the run he needs? It looks like he's going to have the inside, that's for sure, as Chris English can just get the slipstream from the pair of them.
It's pretty even.
But Lua's got the inside. How aggressive is Ziola going to be around the outside here? Let's see what happens.
Oh, he's gone off.
Oh,
Yeah.
he has to go off track completely, and that's going to allow Chris English through. Ziola, a bit crucial mistake there. And is he going to get back on track before Pascal Eggert arrives? No, he is not. And thankfully, Desir is able to get through.
Hold your breath. Valente's past Hartley. I think Hartley's hit problems.
Oh, Hartley in a little bit of trouble then. So he might have used up the best of his tyre life. So a mistake from Louis Hartley. We saw a mistake from Chris English. And now Valente a long way ahead now. And Hartley falling into that battle between Seifert and Sovic, the two S's. There's Pascal Eggert holding off Remco Desir. So Pascal's actually had a decent recovery here, isn't he? After his early troubles. And now we see Sovic fighting Chris English, and English has made it through for that 8th position. So rapid recovery from Chris English too. But that crucial mistake, he could have been fighting for the top 5 there, couldn't he?
It's damage limitation, really. Now Louis dropped back.
Yeah, Lua now is next in his sights, but only 2.5 minutes left in the race. So English will need to have a very, very clean final few laps if he wants to get up into 7th. And he probably won't want to take too many risks with Sovic right behind him. So Sovic's made a mistake then, because he's dropped off the back of Seifert completely and lost several positions.
What's going on in the background there? There's an awful lot of cars, I've just noticed.
Yeah, there's quite a few that retired as
Where
well.
are they?
Ziola crawling around, so the damage clearly quite big at this point in the race. Chris Hood is behind Smaggersgale, so he's had a pretty miserable run. But Desir recovered to 11th, right behind Eggert by a few seconds.
Hood might be quite happy with just finishing the race, though.
At this
Judging
point,
by
yes.
how the rest
But
of his races have
Valente,
gone.
my former driver, of course, great to see him in the top 3. It's starting to make me wish I'd held on to him, but I guess if I had, I wouldn't have had a driver for most of the season. So
This is the
10
first-
out of 10 for effort, but about -3 for bad attendance, in my opinion.
The first time he's actually driven for Maria, isn't it?
In a while, yeah. I think he's been on the sign-up list, but not shown as we go into the final 1 minute and 40 seconds of the race then. But Richards, well on his way to taking another Race 1 victory, sets the fastest final sector. Moynier sets a personal best, though. About 5/10 slower. So the gap 4 seconds between the two in the battle for the lead. Meanwhile, everyone about at least a second apart from one another. Although Chris English, less than a second behind Ten Lure, which is probably the closest battle on track as he starts to pull away from Sovic. So I think Sovic has come to grief while fighting Seifert and is now suffering more damage potentially.
Yeah, it's been impossible to keep up with everything that's happened in this race.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm sure if we look at the tyre choices for race 2, there's quite a few that are going to be in a good position there.
I'm sure it will be the gravel trap cars.
Yeah, Richards, I think, is going to be worried. Venter as well, because neither of them will have the softs at their disposal. Venter's out, of course, so he'll be fighting from the back anyway. But quite a few. I'll have a look at who's using the softs in race 2. I think Roy Seifert stands out. Hesketh's not here. Anthony Wilson's not here. James Smaggersgale will definitely get to use them. Chris Hood as well. Dave Young, who's not here. Ten Lua. That's a great
That's an
notable
interesting
one. Louis Hartley in race 2. And Peter Schumann, Pascal Eggert, Joe Kronk, who's also not here.
I think the final one should be race 3. That's my bad.
Okay. But anyway, the clock about to run out then. So where is Richards? Has he just crossed the line there to start his final lap, I think?
Yes, we're still going.
Yeah, so he's halfway through the final lap. There we go, yeah. So here we go then. Just approaching the middle of the sector, isn't he? So this
Yes,
is
coming
into
up
the
to
S's.
the S's.
And Moynier, it's not really been able to fight because Moynier's got a little bit... No, he's not got that much ballast, has he?
I don't think he's got any either.
Matt Richards has got the soft tyres and Moynier's saving them for race 3, I believe.
Okay.
So that's the excuse I'm using anyway. But Moynier certainly has done well to hold on to that second place from the likes of Valente. But Richards, yet again, laying down the marker. And, you know, not too late for Scuderia Moreira to work their way into the team's championship. You never know. Could certainly fight for the top 3.
It's been, all things considered, quite a good recovery for Gravel Trap.
Indeed, yeah. But here we go. Matt Richards crosses the line now to take his second win in EERC British Touring Cars. Loic Moynier takes a second podium in a row after winning last time out at Rockingham. But here comes Valente, who takes his first podium since Fuji last season for Underboat Simulation. He takes his first podium for Scuderia Moreira to make it 2 Moreira cars on the podium, beating. But here comes Carl Benton up the inside of 10 Lure. So there we go. That's a crucial move for a Gravel Trap Racing. Their power towards the line there. Is he going to spin Benton out? No, Benton takes 6th position. So a great recovery there from Carl Benton, who really had to fight his way through the entire field. There's Remco Diziu finishing in 11th there. But you have to say, in terms of the Drivers' Championship, advantage Louis Hartley then after that first round, with Chris English making a crucial mistake when he wasn't too far behind.
Gravel Trap are going to be looking to get at the front in race 2, I feel. But that'll be difficult with Sifa and Lua, both on the softs.
Yeah, the crucial thing is, how's Richards going to do in race 2? How are the likes of Moynier and Valente and Hartley going to do as well? But anyway, let's look through the finishing order then. It's Matt Richards who takes his second victory in 2 race 1s in a row, with Loic Moynier 4 or 5 seconds in a drift. Alessandro Valente third, after overcoming Louis Hartley. We didn't quite see the move, but I think Louis Hartley made a mistake, so full marks to Valente. Roy Seifert holds on to 5th. A pretty heroic defence from Roy Seifert, considering he was under attack that entire race. Carl Benton, despite a pretty contentious crash with Paul J. Venter, cuts the track completely and recovers to 6th. Although he didn't really gain too much from his cut there. He emerged roughly where he would have been had he stayed on track. 10 Lure finishes 7th, so a bit of a... that's in 3 cars in the top 7 for Scuderia Moreira, although in the 2 different teams, of course. Chris English, title contender, finishes 8th after a little mistake, but beats Scott Sovic and Pascal Eggert, who rounds out the top 10. Then it's Remco Diziu, who finishes roughly where he started, unfortunately, after his penalty. Just lots of incidents in the pack, not always his fault. Neil Greening finishes 12th ahead of Adam Ziola, who had all sorts of problems today to contend with. Niall Boulian finishes 14th ahead of James Spanker's. Chris Hood gets a rare finish under his belt. Igor Stuniarek is the last finisher in 7th after a pretty horrible race 1. Then it's Paul J. Venter, Peter Schumann, Andy Simmons, and who else? I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's already reset. I can't see. There was one more person, but
I think he's left the server now, hasn't he?
Was it Adabar?
Yeah, Bjorn Adabar, who failed to get too far in the race at all. Of all the Scuderia Moreira cars, I think he's the only one who had a bad race, because even Smegascale got top 15 and beat Chris Hood. So there he is. We see him on the graphic now. But anyway, so a pretty hectic race 1, which makes me wonder just how chaotic races 2 and 3 are going to be.
Well, with the tyre difference and the ballast difference, all the faster cars are going to be at the back. It could be a spicy one.
Could be indeed. So who we got to watch out for? Smagasgale on the softs. He will start 15th. We've got Joe Cronk, who might randomly join. He'll be on our new driver. We got Roy Seifert in the top 5 on the softs. So Seifert is definitely going to be one to watch. And I think that's about it, really.
Lure as well?
Chris Hood as well in 16th. And Lua, of course. Lua in 8th, wasn't he? Or
Yep.
did he just get beaten to 8th by Chris English? I think he's 9th, Lua.
Lua is 7th.
Oh, 7th, there we go. Oh, he got beaten by the other gravel trap, wasn't it? Of Benton, of course.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite hard to keep track of everything going on.
So watch out for Lua, Seafoot, Chris Hood, and about it, I think.
Right, I'm going to
Those
set the
three.
ballast. I'll be back in a second.
Sure thing. But there we go. So certainly, as we see, for some reason the timing tower is rotating at the top. So I'm not sure how that's happened when it should be in the top left corner.
Oh, is it?
Press the wrong one, my friend.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Sorry about that. But there we go. So see the ocean in the background. I believe that's the just the ocean all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Is it in the middle of South Africa? It might just be a big lake. I don't know.
I think it's whatever the sea is at the bottom of Africa. Is it just called the African Ocean?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one you have to travel through to get to Madagascar. Yeah. Yeah, certainly Chris English will be hoping to do a bit better in race 2, hoping that Louis Hartley hits some trouble. But race 3 is the one that both English and Hartley have gone for the soft tyres in, I believe. With pretty much quite a bit high percentage of the field going for race 3, with only about 4 or 5 drivers going for race 2.
Venter disconnected.
Ah, that was what happened then. So really bad luck there, because the top 10 was definitely in the offering for Paul J. Venter. It's a difficult one to see who's going to really be. I think Seifert may fancy his chances of taking a win here in race 2 on the soft tyres, but it depends if he can dispense with Valente, Hartley, Loic Moynier, and Richards quickly. Oh, that's not really a good line to take, is it? Is that Smaggersgale going off?
That is Valente.
Oh, it's Valente, sorry.
Oh, do you need your box up as well? Where's the...
Well, I can
There we
see
go.
on the timing tower, but yeah, it's there we go, thank you.
I can't actually see the streams.
Yeah, I need to keep telling you what the audience is seeing. But anyway, as we're waiting, since I don't have Josh to talk to, I should probably look in the well, not that you're bad company, Nick, but I should look at the chat and see what people are saying at the moment. Nine people watching at the moment. So Paul just said got a disconnection, and Funny Skate X says hello to EERC. I'm not sure who Funny Skate X is supposed to be. Go to his channel, see if it gives any
I
hints.
think I recognise the name.
Oh, some Italian guy, I think.
As Loic is somehow pointing the wrong way in the pit lane.
Clearly someone of their mind on the job.
Just waiting for Neil Greening to come back. His game has crashed.
Ah, typical. This is what happened to Remco in Bathurst, wasn't it? Where he tried to get in, his game crashed right as the server ticked over or something, wasn't it?
It's a good job we don't have
There we
Max
go.
Verstappen.
Loic deciding to reverse down the pit lane.
I can't
great-
recommend that.
Which is a great way to get disqualified. Oh, and then he does a full 180 and gets back on.
Well,
So
it's stylish, at least.
yeah, he's certainly in a good mood after his second place, isn't he?
Oh, no, maybe not anymore.
Oh, and into the undergrowth he
He
goes.
jumped the barrier.
Trying to find some interesting corner cuts here. Oh, he's going driving to someone's house now. This is
This is
remember that?
definitely what warm-up's for.
This is like that Thomas the Tank Engine episode where he crashes into someone's house at the exit of the railway line. It's like, what's
Who's
it called?
this?
Thomas Comes to Breakfast or something?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I think Richards had just left. He's driven on that road that Paul was talking about, and he's left the circuit.
Sent a message like, what are you doing? Oh, Whoa, and that's Valente who's figured out a way to fly somehow. Very high in the orbit. So the Scuderia Marrero Space Agency. Oh, somebody just, another of the Marrero drivers deciding to go on the, go into town to do a bit of shopping, clearly.
This
in
is
East
what
London.
this is what happens when you leave a bunch of sim racers unattended on a server.
Oh, well, at least they're not doing the Williams Esports Daytona
Right.
strategy. Like Chris had replies French stuff. That's what Loic is doing. We wouldn't able to comprehend it. There we go. But for some reason we're into another quali session, even though we're supposed to be getting the race set.
We're working through it.
All right, we're cycling through until we get to race 2. But certainly the gap in the drivers' championship, by the way, was about 25 points going in, so it's increased. I believe there was about 4 positions in between the two.
Yeah, so Hartley finished 4th, English finished 8th.
That means it's ballooned out to about 30 points again, hasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
30, 32, I think.
Alright, let's go to the race.
Alright, so with the grid set up, the ballast applied, it's going to be much harder for Richards to hold on this time. I believe he's actually snuck into near the top 10 in the championship, having taken 2 wins now.
I think he probably has, as has Loic.
See, because it's sort of a bit all over the place.
Well, at
Lower
least
end of
this
the top
race
10.
can't go much worse than the first one.
Well, we'll see. Famous last words. Let's just hope we don't need to restart it because everyone crashes into one another, like we saw in Nutstorp and Anglesey race 2.
Nutstorp was the epitome, or the lowest of the lows.
We had a very, very big field at Nutstorp and a very, very narrow circuit. But here we go, the EL, East London Grand Prix circuit. Is you see in the background?
No jumps here, unlike Nutstorp.
Less airtime, unless you get hit by someone or go off track a long way.
Only involuntary airtime here.
Only Valente, trying to get into space, has figured out how to do it. But he starts 3rd once again. Oh, no, he started 4th, didn't he, last time? Or near the top 5, anyway. But here we go. Looks like the last few cars getting into position now. So
10
the light's
seconds.
about to go out for race 2. With Richards and Moynier side by side. Once again, who is going to get the best getaway? Last time it was Moynier, but Richards recovered. There's Attibar at the back. And one of the SZ cars getting a great launch. Pascal Eggert getting completely swamped by Remco Dizu. But yet again, it is Loic Moynier who gets the better run into turn 1 and beats Matt Richards off the line. But Hartley gets the better run round the outside of Alessandro Valente to take 3rd position. Does he? But Valente fights back on the inside. As that's one of the gravel traps
That's
going up
English.
straight. That's Chris English in the wars again. And he hits the wall quite
I think
hard.
he saved it.
Oh, and he rejoins right at the back then. But that's really not what he
Richards
wanted.
off.
Matt Richards goes well off track there. I thought he was going a bit deep, but he's taken the biscuit and somebody following him as well. And that puts Matt Richards well down the order there. Catastrophic error there early in the race as English fights Abdebar.
Bit cleaner than last time.
So Loic Moynier now leads as Remco Dizu slices his way past Adam Ziola into the top 10. And side by side goes Hartley and Benson as the SZ car. What's happened
That's
there?
my internet dropping out, that is.
Oh, okay.
There'll
So
be
the race...
The
so
race is
still
ongoing, yeah.
Okay, right. Well, the timing screen is buffering on my end, unfortunately.
It'll be back in a second. Just let me... I knew this. I've been having problems the last few days, so it was always a possibility.
Well, bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, but it is still, I believe, Loic Moynier leading.
Yep, Roy Seifert second.
And come on, timing screen, bloody load. There we go, right. So Loic Moynier leads Roy Seifert by 0.2 of a second. Seifert on the soft tyres, remember. Loic Moynier is still on the mediums. 0.1 between them now. Valente is 3rd from Benton. Lua Hartley lost out, but he's just gotten back ahead of Benton into 5th position. Sovic is 7th. Pascal Eggert is 8th. James Smagaskel is 9th. And Remco Dizu rounds out the top 10 with Chris Hood right behind him.
We'll be back in any second
And
now.
Seifert takes the lead from Loic Moynier, just on the entrance into the S's there. So Roy Seifert takes the lead.
Just as we get back in the game.
And now Alessandro Valente is only 0.4 behind Loic Moynier. So Seifert now should be looking good to pull away. Who else is on the soft tyres? I believe it's Chris Hood. So there might be something interesting happening between Hood and Dizu.
Nearly there. Come on, Arfak.
Here we go. Looks like Benton Hartley loses a place to Sovic as Benton fights Lua for 4th position and makes it through there.
Right.
And oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Here we go. So we should be able to. Oh no, we got kicked out again.
Yeah, internet dropped again.
Bloody hell.
We can
Is this
blame Sky.
Is this your crappy northwest England?
Southeast England. Internet.
Southeast, sorry, yeah. So I forget where everyone lives.
Yeah, sorry about this.
Angus Gale, Dizu, Hartley, Tane Lua, Andy Simmons, Matt Richards, Chris Hood's made a mistake. He had a very bad first sector on that last lap. He's dropped behind Chris English down to 14th then.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there.
Yeah, well, I have no idea.
Yeah, we'll be able to see soon, hopefully.
Fingers crossed, unless you get dropped out again, which of course is very annoying for our audience at home because I'm just commentating on a timing screen, so I'm just
Indeed.
guessing what's happening. 3 seconds now is the gap between Seifert and Valente. Moynier,
Oh,
0.2, and we got dropped again, which is really frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. Monumentally frustrating.
let me restart the game.
Sovic sets fastest lap of the race in 5th, 0.3 behind Carl Benton. So Benton, far from closing on Moynier, is actually finding himself under attack. Pascal Eggert still sick for.
Are we back?
But Sovic right behind Benton, fighting for that 4th
This
position.
is getting a bit ridiculous now.
Yeah, it's kind of a farce, isn't it?
Yeah, as Max Verstappen's. Oh no, it's nothing to do with our factor for once.
It's all your crappy internet's fault, I guess.
Yep.
It's a shame. We've got all of race 1, and now race 2 is turned into an absolute. You said, oh, at least it can't get any worse. But for race 2,
I might have to restart the router between race 2 and race 3.
yeah, well, in fact, to be honest, if it's just going to be me commentating over a timing screen, you may as well restart the router now.
There's Chris English's stream. You might be able to watch that.
This is a bit pathetic, isn't it?
A little bit. Come on, our factor.
I know it's not your fault, but I feel like my internet's fine. Why isn't yours?
Yeah, we've had problems the last few days. I don't seem to want to do anything about it, and it's been fine all day, typically. It's just now.
Anyway, Roy Sievert continues to extend the gap over Valente to just actually it's gone down a bit.
I think we might have to give up on this for now and come back for race 3. If you can hear me, Ed? Can you hear me yet?